And I would like to ask Ms. Commissioner Barbara McCoy if she'll do the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us all bow our heads, please. Dear Lord, we come before you this morning just giving thanks. Thanking you for another day and all your mercy, grace, and your blessings. Now, Lord, we thank you for allowing us to assemble here this morning and discuss the issues that's needed for our county. We ask that you guide us in a way that we can make the right decision for the people of Harnett County. And this is my prayer, Lord. Amen.
You will remain standing for the Harnett County Heroes Remembrance President.
Harold J. Thomas, Jr., Warrant Officer 1. Air Medal with Valor Device. For heroism while participating in aerial flight, evidenced by voluntary actions above and beyond the call of duty. Warrant Officer Thomas distinguished himself by exceptionally valorous actions while conducting a classified photo reconnaissance mission. Upon discovering an armed enemy position, including anti-aircraft weapons, he repeatedly made low-level photographic runs until intense automatic weapon fired rendered his ship's hydraulic system useless. Warrant Officer Thomas then called helicopter gunships in on the target, achieving positive results in that several enemy positions were destroyed. Due to the intelligence data resulting from his mission, a troop insertion in the area the next day experienced fewer losses of life and equipment. Warrant Officer Thomas's courage and selflessness before the enemy set an outstanding example of professionalism and dedication and were in keeping with the highest traditions of military service, reflecting great credit upon himself, his unit, and the United States Army. On April 7th, 2026, your name and citation that appear on the Harnett County Wall of Heroes and will remain so forever as part of the history of Harnett County is being duly recognized for your act of heroism while serving in the United States Armed Forces. We, as a county, come together to commend you for your actions and dedication to our great nation. Signed this day, Brent Trout, Harnett County Manager, Duncan E. Jaggers, Chairman, Harnett County Board of Commissioners. Want to say anything, Mr. Jagger? Are you good?
right, we'll move on now to the public comment period. This is a period of up to 30 minutes for informal comments, allowing 3 minutes for each.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Your agenda.
Okay. I will consider any addition, deletion to the published agenda.
Move to approve the agenda as stands, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Now, public period comment. Up to 30 minutes for informal comments, allowing 3 minutes for each presentation. Individuals who wish to speak are asked to sign up prior to the meeting. Speakers may register by completing the form on the county website in advance at harnett.org/BOC, contacting the clerk at least 1 hour before the meeting begins via email at mdcaps@harnett.org or by signing the sign-up sheet located at the back of the meeting room. The sign-up form will be picked up by the clerk 5 minutes before the published meeting time. Now, we have more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 14 people signed up, and that does not add out to 30 minutes. But what we'd like to do is, if you don't have to speak your whole 3 minutes, if you'll yield that time for, some other people so we can get everybody that wants to speak today, okay? That's what I'm asking. And please understand there are young ears in the room today, so just remember when you're talking that there are children in the room. The first one is Glenn Mohan.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Glenn Maughan. I live at 230 East Lillington Street in Angier. My wife and I bought that house 11 years ago. I'd like you to know that in this present-day economy, we would not be looking in Harnett County at all to buy a house. In fact, we would be unable to even rent a home, including the 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment that's available in Angier, downtown Angier at this moment. I am grateful that the county has a senior low income for others tax breaks. It's an amazing thing that I've been able to take advantage of. And like a lot of other folks here, you definitely need to run the clock on me if that's not working. I don't see a way that you can avoid taxes. They've been risen on me twice. I expect that will happen again. What I'd like to say is that we would not have our county be able to do things without the influx of new people here. I certainly welcome them, whether they're here already or whether they're about to come. They will certainly add a lot to our economy, but at present, I have nothing but the coldest regards for those that do business here in the county and do little by adding to our tax platform, I guess is the word I'm searching for. One more favorable item, this Friday, April 10th, is the birthday of Cornelius Harnett. He would be 303 years old if he were still alive. And I will celebrate his birthday in front of this amazing building by reading the Declaration of Independence. I will also do it again on April 13th, which is the anniversary of the Halifax Resolves. Many historians believe that Mr. Harnett had a lot to do with the First and Freedom business that the Halifax Resolves later turned into the Declaration of Independence. So in Angier, at the Centennial Clock, and here outside the library, I will read the Declaration of Independence Friday and Monday. Hope you have a great day, including everyone here, and a better tomorrow. Thanks.
Thank you. Sandra Alexander. Not here? Okay, Jerry Rivas.
All right, I spoke at the last meeting about the reevaluation, and I filed an appeal on my reappraisal, went to J.D. Power and Associates and paid for a professional appraisal of my 31-year-old mobile home, submitted that, and the lady in the tax office said, "Oh, I'm sorry. You paid for the $35 appraisal. You should have paid for the $55 appraisal." You know, my next door neighbor's property value doubled. Mr. Robert Womack's went from $70,000 to $330,000. That's 500%. The value of my mobile home rose 1,480%. And I understand that you people misuse the funds and waste money left and right, so you need it. But all I'm asking for is a fair and equitable reassessment. You can't say his property is worth $500,000 and his property is only worth $200,000. Come on, why not? How's this for a concept? How about every year you tie the reappraisals to the national rate of inflation? My Social Security cost of living adjustment last year was 2.8%, but my property tax reappraisal is 1,480%. I know you folks hate mobile homes. You hate when I come up here and speak because you have nothing but disdain for the public and the taxpayer. And the one commissioner who told me that we were all ignorant and stupid and uneducated, he's absent today. But my God, you people should have a little bit more respect for those of us who were stupid and ignorant enough to vote you into office. Because guess what? You're not getting reelected. That's not going to happen. We need fairness and equality in this county. Don't penalize mobile homes just because you hate them. I know what you'd like to do. Somebody would like to take my 4.3 acres that my wife is buried on, kick my butt off of it, and build anywhere from 12 to 20 houses on there. But with the thousands of homes being built in Harnett County in the last couple of years, how can you be hurting for money? Every one of these households is paying property taxes. How can you be hurting for money? Jim Bergen says, I don't think anybody over 85 should have to pay property taxes. Isn't that generous? Actuary tables say that 1.9% of the population lives to be 85 years old. Why is anybody on Social Security paying property taxes? And then he said this county received $26 million in COVID relief funds. What happened to it? I had COVID twice. Nobody brought me a mask or a bowl of chicken soup. What happened to the money? You people, you squander it, and then you pack it up my backside without even the decency to give me a reach around. Good Lord.
Good one, yes!
Marge Morton.
Good morning. I'm Marge Morton and live at 86 Gwendolyn Way. I want to start saying that I do not envy your jobs right now, especially in dealing with the 2026 property reassessments. I also want to acknowledge that there has been a lot of frustration in the community, and not all has been expressed the right way, the best way. There is also a lot of misinformation. Many residents believe that their taxes will automatically double or triple based on these new values, and we know that's not necessarily how it works. The final tax impact depends on the rate that you set during the upcoming budget process. I also understand the position the county's in. Costs are going up. There has been a loss of low wealth funding for the schools, along with increased funding needs. And for every dollar collected in property taxes, it costs the county about $1.30 to provide services. I recognize that pressure. However, even with that understanding, what we are seeing in this reassessment cycle is deeply concerning. I collected feedback yesterday from over 80 households across Harnett County on social media. Many reported increases of $100,000 or more. Some properties doubled in value, maybe some even tripled. What stands out the most is that mobile and manufactured homes are seeing most of the highest increases, even though these homes typically depreciate over time. Many of these residents have no improvement to their homes, have lived there 20, 30, and even 40 years. Other seniors on Social Security, disabled veterans, or family already struggling with rising costs of living. There's also a clear pattern where properties near new developments appear to be impacted the most. Residents feel they are being compared to homes that are not comparable to their own. At the same time, residents who have recently purchased new homes in these developments are unlikely to see the same level of increase, if any at all, which means the burden is shifting onto people who have lived here the longest. We're also seeing a lot of these homes being purchased by investment companies through LLCs, sometimes owned out of state or internationally, and I know personally of one in China, and managed locally as rentals. These are not owner-occupied homes, yet they are influencing values for people who actually live here. And those that rent, these increases will not stop at the property owner. They will be passed down. Even if the tax rate is lowered, the residents who experienced the largest increases between 2022 and 2026 assessments will still feel the greatest impact. The gap between those assessments is simply too large to offset. I do recognize that the county already has some tax relief programs in place. However, many people fall outside of those thresholds that do not qualify, even though they're still struggling to absorb increases of this size. So while this may be a valuation issue on paper, the real-world impact is very human. It affects stability, housing, security, and whether people can remain in the communities they have built their lives in. I do have a little bit more to say, and I know I'm out of time. I have summarized my comments in a document, along with 2 pages worth of comments that were most impactful that were put on social media. Thank you.
Elizabeth Lawman. Yes, sir.
Gentlemen, Commissioner Barbara McCoy, we need to talk about the biggest ticket item on your budget. That's the Sheriff's Department. As you go ahead and continually raise these taxes, and you still give us a sheriff's office that has some of the biggest lawsuits this state has ever seen, raising our taxes and not fixing that. We know about the lawsuits, but let me tell you about the impact on those who are not financially affluent in this county from that Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department will not transfer people from prison to court in Harnett County. All the charges that someone has will not be heard at one time in this county. So even if you go into the prison system, reform yourself, and try and move ahead, Harnett County Sheriff's Department will have a failure to appear lingering on top of your head. Why? Because you were doing your time in prison, and as soon as they say, sir, ma'am, go home, Harnett County Sheriff's Department will detain you because they refused to transport you to come and meet your court obligations in Harnett County. How is someone supposed to go ahead with their life when Harnett County Sheriff's Department keeps these predatory ways? When someone walks in and is told, hey, if you're a drug addict, put your drugs over here, we will not charge you for it. And you put your drugs over there, and guess what? You catch a charge. You reach out for help. You say, okay, I know I'm struggling. This is a spiral downwards. I need a foot forward. Harnett County Sheriff's Department will charge you and sink you even lower than you need. If by any chance you get probation or parole, and now you need transportation from point A to point B to meet your probation parole obligations, or even to know who your probation parole person is, Harnett County Sheriff's Department will not let you know who your probation parole person is. I have seen other sheriff's departments operate where you are met met by your probation parole officer, you are told that this is what your terms are, and you go home, Harnett County Sheriff's Department will say, oh, you're done in court? There you go home. Apparently, you had probation parole officer somewhere to meet. You never knew that. You go home, failure to appear, CRV 90 days. All the time. It's a cycle with Harnett County, and yet we still give that sheriff's department the biggest share. The courtroom is bad enough. The courtroom has its own issues, but these are issues that if the deputies showed up and took people into court, they would not have a failure to appear. If when you're being discharged out of that jail for whatever term you've been in there for, or being brought back from a prison and then released from Harnett County Jail, and the sheriff's department had done their clerical work and informed someone of what they need to do or not do, you would not have all that. So it's not that people have a criminal lifestyle, it's that the sheriff's department creates situations where your life will be sunk if you do not earn a certain amount of income in this county. And stop giving them that money and raising our taxes at the same time.
All right. Alan Lawman.
Malin Longman, 234 Hamilton Road, Bonneville. Reason I'm here talking is you talk about cost, increasing your taxes, yet you sit around there, you have this powerful, overly powerful legislature that turns around without any boundaries and control, tell you what to do, and you're not able to do your job half the time. You're going to have to sit there and change what is in there so that you get more cooperation in helping the people here live. I'm tired of this with the government wasting money. Department of Education here does terrible. They have terrible results. You throw them money, they're not going anywhere, or you take money away from them and says, I can't be bothered. You see this with the Sheriff's Department. You need government functions, including the Sheriff's Department, where they're able to sit there and run things so they're efficient and effective, so you're not wasting millions of dollars that way, or wasting millions of dollars in lawsuits, which you could easily handle and save a lot of this cost. The cost is immense. We need to sit there and change what is in government and who is in government and stop always putting people in. We talked about Harnett and his birthday. Harnett's time, when he was around, did not have political parties. The people thought on themselves and on their own and establishes their view on life and how they felt. There were no political parties when this country was started, and it did great. We need to sit there and think for ourselves what's best for us, instead of going around and just keep continuing the same stuff. If these people work for us as a company, will we hire them? Will we give them raises? We'd make them accountable. And I don't see that happening. And the people here are going to have to do that. The taxes are rising. Well, you have to pay for problems with the weather and other disasters come right out of your hide. But you voted for it. It's okay. The great beautiful bill took money away from the locals. Yet, you're not standing up and saying, hey, look, I don't want this. That's your jobs. To stand up against your own, even politically, doesn't seem correct. The point is you shouldn't get past a certain point if you don't represent the people here. Thank you.
Carl Mill.
I'm Carl Miller. I live at 1351 Line Road in Cameron. I live the furthest part of the county, probably than anybody in this room. We don't get nothing on our side of the county. Our taxes go up. All my life I've been told everything stays on this side of the river. And that's true. We had a person that fought to get us a park. Oh, we got a park, if that's what you want to call it. I wouldn't take my kid there to play ball. It's a disgrace. My taxes go up. I've checked all my neighbors. Their taxes have went up. I've worked almost all my life to get what I've got. I'm getting ready to retire. Now I got to start thinking about different now. because my taxes had doubled. All because I wanted to do the right thing. When I bought the land, I was told, oh, leave it in farm. Just don't tell the county about it. No. I said, no, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to take it out of the farm till I get it to where I can afford to put it back into the farm. Well, now I'm fighting to get it put back into the farm. Can't get it put back in the farm. Can't get no help. Every time I turn around, somebody's telling me no, 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 but I pay my taxes. I bought the land for my grandkids and my daughter. They won't never be able to afford the taxes if something happens to me. And that's wrong. And with you guys being elected, you guys need to think about that. Everybody wasn't born with a golden spoon in their mouth. We've always had to work for what we've got. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Patricia Curls.
I hope I got it. I'm a nervous wreck. We're living in Anger on Fox Hill Drive since 1999. Do I feel safe? Does my husband feel safe? No. No safe. The things I watch, the things I call in anonymously, the things that have not happened in 3 years. I've watched people leave their homes drunk with their kids in the car. I call, nothing. Johnston County Sheriff, they finally got one of them after 3 years. But I'm not going to go on that. I just want to know what our taxes are paying for. I am in a position where 1999 was my dream home, and the town built up around us. And because of where we're located, it takes 20 minutes for the sheriff to come, and your police don't come because they say, you're not in our jurisdiction. Okay. So, that's that. Down the road, Catherine's Retreat, 4 minutes. Woo! We've been vandalized, harassed, because I complained about something dumping down at the end of the road. 3 years of business has been dumping. I was harassed, my husband and I, and vandalized. But it wasn't worth going to court over. But they were my 25-year-old plants. It might not seem anything to you guys, but 25 years of raising plants. Someone comes and vandalizes you because I complained about trash being dumped. It used to be really nice. People could walk around. That's all I wanted back. A neighborhood, a safe neighborhood. And another issue is dog barking. Okay, all dogs bark, I know that. Why put them in a corner when I'm gardening and just let it ferociously bark hours? It's not an animal control problem. It's a police nuisance. I get it from the side. My husband comes home from a 14-hour day listening to a dog in a cage for an hour, crying attention while they ride around and tease it. I just want my husband and I to be able to go outside in our yard and not be harassed anymore. So I did talk to a deputy, and he found out that he needed to talk to the lieutenant because, yes, it is. It's a nuisance. I'm a dog owner. My dog's 17 years old. I have never let it just ferociously bark out of control. That's the end of it. I just want my tax dollars. I want to feel safe. I don't want to live in this life with cameras. I'm wondering, is this guy going to come back? He told me he was going to come back. I apprehended the man in Food Lion who vandalized me, not the Anger police. I apprehended him.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Mr. Everett Blake.
Well, I would say I'm like everybody else talking about tax reevaluations, but guess what? I've been working on this one for about 2 years. Morehead City did it to residents first. They like many municipalities, they've taken the, General Statute 105 to heart now. So there's no longer an assessed value. There's a market value which should equal the assessed value. Okay, great. So Morehead City, when they did it, saw a 70% increase in tax revenues, 8.8 million to 14.1 million. All because when they put their assessment in, they moved their tax rate down some, but they knew going into it, they were almost 30% above a tax neutral position at their new rate. I know the legislature is beginning to talk about stepping in. I'd love to see Harnett County say, we don't need you. We're going to look at this and say, our biggest growth we've ever had in the last 10 years is 11%. We'll put a cap at 15% of an increase based over the last year. A number like that allows you to grow, allows you to pay for more things, but it also gives the citizens a little bit more time to explore their assessment. Was I shocked about my assessment? No, because I went online to Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, and any other real estate agency I could find. It just so happens that my appraisal was $232,000, and the average of all those was $232,000. If we paid somebody a lot of money to do the appraisal for us, call me next time. I can just go grab my computer and do it easier. But that's market value. It's not what we grew up doing. It's not what we saw as a family. My beach house in Morehead went from $400,000 a year as an assessment value to $2.2 million because somebody else sold a piece of property, and now everybody got the square footage of your property at the same rate. My house sold one time. It was the day my grandfather and my uncle bought that property. It's never going to leave our family unless Morehead finally takes it because we can't pay for taxes. And you're in a tough spot here, guys. Y'all have to figure out how to raise money. And I was told years ago by a gentleman I worked with, new homes don't always pay for themselves. So we have to figure out how we can tax new homes at a different rate. So for the first 10 years, they're bringing in more than just market value. If we can do that, we can shift the burden from our senior citizens to the new locations. Now, is this a approved practice? Probably not. Sorry, Mr. Snow, you may have a lot of work to do on that. But if you can shift that tax value to a different group, maybe people aren't quite so mad about seeing the assessment go up. But just be tax neutral because y'all you have a big checkbook that y'all get to go draw from. So we're just asking you to show restraint.
Jenna Miller.
Good morning, everyone. I've been out here for 40 years. I own 8 homes on Word Church Lane. It's a dirt road. State maintenance program, you're looking at her. John Deere 990. I got this. What I don't have is all this increase for all the taxes that keep going up and up and up. Now, recently, I did come before the board last year to find out that we homeowners were incorrectly taxed for 40 years based off your GIS system. GIS statute said we can only go back 3 years. I'm still looking into that because I feel like I paid 40 years into it and I can only get 3 years at a percentage, but I admit I'm not that educated, but I know how to check my resources. Everybody here has a story. Our common denominator is we can't afford what we all work for. There's communities coming up left and right. I'm being assessed because of Foxtrot, community next door with nice paved roads and street lamps, and we don't have all that. We have each other. So I just don't understand how, and right now my confidence is kind of rocked with being incorrectly taxed for 40 years. So I really don't have the answers, but what I'm asking is that everybody, has to be held accountable. I mean, I called the tax office and yes, I finally just started taking names and numbers. And then I finally started getting some results, but they're not the results that's going to keep all of us here who've been here. working all of our lives before Harnett County was the popular place it has become today. We need to be assured that we're not going to lose what we all work for. I'm thinking I'm probably older than most of the people that worked at the tax department in the years that I've been here. So I just ask that everybody reassess, step back, and take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Terry Wiley.
Morning.
Morning.
You know, I only have three things that I'm really concerned about. Three items to express on, and that's the county's income, where you guys get your money, and one of them is the NC State Lottery, educational lottery. I think that's great. I think it's great. They made $6.5 billion this year. Their system, their operating cost was $5.5 billion, or at least that's what, if you take out what Harnett County and the other 99 counties get, they get $1.005 billion, which comes up to about $10,050,000 a county. It's nice to get a little bit of money, but I don't quite understand why the NC State Lottery has to have such a high operating cost, $5.5 billion. I would think $1.005 billion would be enough for their lottery system. That's your income. That's something to look into. Is the lottery given other people? That was a North Carolina school lottery system, It's supposed to be for schools, not for anything else. So that needs to be looked into, and I looked at our second income would have been impact fees, but we don't have that. That stopped at the senator's level. We all know that. And I'm sorry, beating them up over it, having people send emails to them and requesting it, and NC House 437 bill. It's only fair. I don't quite understand. I understand a few things I'm not going to speak about, why he might not be doing it, but that's beside the point. And the third income for the county are property taxes. And from what I see, it's mostly for the middle income people in the county. Lower income people pay half or none. Land renters pay some if they own mobile homes. Other renters pay for what their personal properties are, and possibly not very much in comparison to property owners. So the middle income and the retired property owners pay the bulk of the tax, and a few well-off property owners pay some or not. I don't know. I can't say either way. I haven't looked into that. And I've made so many mistakes in some of the things that I've said on my posts, but I try to go back and correct them so that I'm being fair to y'all and fair to us all. I don't want to be unfair to anybody. I just want to be fair. And finally, Harnett County is a great place to retire. Taxes were low. I've lived here all my life, and I'm sorry. But, the bottom line, I'll skip to the last line. We need to stop building. We need to stop the bulk building permits. We need to pay off what we've got. But before we start up again, we need to get the impact fees passed through legislation so that the developers can pay their own way. This is the only fair and right way to do things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alvin West. Alvin.
My name is Alvin West. I live on Bethel Baptist Road. I live on Spring Lake Route, though. It's called the post office. But Bethel Baptist Road is a disaster. It has not been paid in 50 years. The pavement they put on it is spray some asphalt on it and throw some gravel on it. And then it knocks everybody's windshields out. The road is so narrow, school buses have to get off the road when they meet each other from knocking their mirrors out. And there's 3 covers on this road. It's about to fall in. What is going with the tax money? I pay over $3,000 a year property tax. I was born and raised on Bethel Baptist Road, but I put 20 years in the United States Air Force. But I came back because I love my county. But look what we've done to this county. You can't afford to live here anymore. My wife is from Louisiana, and she wanted me to move to Louisiana because her relatives live a lot better than I do, and we do. It's time that y'all take a good look and have someone to come in and reevaluate where our money is going in this county. That's what we need. And I have 2 rental mobile homes. One of them's a 14 by 50. It's a 1987 mobile home. The tax value of it is $19,000 some dollars. Tell me, the mobile home didn't cost us $7,000 new. And it has a title, just like your automobiles have a title. And y'all want to charge me footage. This is wrong. It's time to correct this problem so we poor people in this county can live like we're supposed to. And we work hard all our life to have something, and then when we get retirement age, we can't afford it. That's what's happening in this county.
Look into that, yeah. That's ridiculous.
At the end, when we get finished, I'll let you talk to him.
And we ask you to look into his road.
His road?
His road,
Yes.
where he lives on.
I didn't get the,
You get with him and give him the information, because that's ridiculous.
and we can get with the DOT related
Yeah,
to.
give it to DOT, 'cause that's
All right.
ridiculous.
Richard Chapman?
Good morning. Richard Chapman, 5220 Christian Light Road. First, I'd like to request the board to adopt a policy at which, at the beginning of each meeting where one or more commissioners is absent, the chair acknowledge those absences and explain them. It is jarring to see less than a full complement of commissioners at a meeting, and I believe it is the public's right to know why their elected representatives are not attending. Second, it is clear from the discussion at last week's legislative luncheon that little, if any, conversation is occurring between the legislative delegation and you commissioners. I believe that lack of communication is harmful to this county. I therefore request that the board formally invite to this podium each elected delegate to the General Assembly at least quarterly to report on issues pertaining to Harnett County, discuss progress toward achieving legislative priorities and goals, and answer questions. I'd leave out Congressman Knott and Senators Budd and Tillis, but the 3 who should not be exempted are Senator Bergen and State Representatives Penny and Pike. They are the County Commission's principal action figures in the state legislature, and it is they who should understand the depth and detail of Harnett's problems. It is clear from last week's discussion that they do not. It was particularly telling when Senator Bergen pointed out that counties were created by the legislature, so they must do as the state wishes or else. To me, that sounded like a father trying to justify not feeding his child on grounds it was his right to starve the youngster. If that isn't a moral abomination, I don't know what is. And I hope you are all as displeased by that cavalier attitude as I was. Starvation level funding by a cheap-ass legislature and handcuffing counties isn't the way I see the job of the state. But now at least you know how the legislature views you and why the only revenue-raising authority you have is the property tax and the sales tax, which Harnett still doesn't get its fair share of, and why the state won't let you charge impact fees to developers. Third, The famous quote that no man's liberty, life, and property are safe while the legislature is in session must have had the House Select Committee on Property Tax Reduction in mind. That committee's proposal to the voters will be a train wreck for our county's budget and the services Harnett residents have come to count on. Another good reason Harnett could use a full-time revenue officer. I wish I had more time. Thank you.
Eric Stevenson.
Good morning, Harnett County. Y'all doing okay?
Thank you.
Y'all doing all right over here? How about over here? County employees, y'all all right? I'm checking on you. I got to make sure everybody's all right. I'm Eric Stevenson, 100 Valley Stream Road in Spring Lake. And first I want to just bring some awareness to Harnett County's beautiful spring litter sweep. It's a county-wide cleanup, and the remaining dates are the 11th, 13th, and 18th of April. It's county-wide, so there's some great information on the county website. We want to keep the county that we love beautiful, right? And this is I think these are some great opportunities right now that we all can work together and pick up some litter and keep the county beautiful as we address the many issues that we have. And I know y'all see all the litter that's around, right? I've seen things from couches to mattresses to you name it. And I just think this is a great thing that the county is doing to rally the troops and bring us all together. But one of the things I did want to talk about was, and I've talked to a lot of neighbors and friends that have reached out to me concerning, actually a little bit more clarity and accountability and transparency regarding the authority given to our county manager to approve or reduce and waive fees up to $10,000. And just to be clear, these are not any accusations, just questions that people have reached out to me about. So the questions are, what specific fees are covered under the authority? Does it include permitting fees, developmental related fees, administrative fees, or other county charges? Is the $10,000 threshold applied per request, per project, per person, per business, or per transaction? If a fee is waived or reduced, what written policy governs that decision? Is there a clear standard that explains when a waiver is justified or when it's not? What documentation is required before a fee can be reduced or waived? Who reviews that documentation and that justification is preserved as a part of public record? Is it preserved as a part of public record? What safeguards are in place to prevent abuse of that authority? For example, what prevents a larger amount from being broken into smaller pieces just to stay under the $10,000 threshold? How is this authority reported back to the Board of Commissioners and to the public? Would there be a regular report showing the date, amount, department, type of fee, and the reason the authority was used? And finally, what protections exist to ensure that this authority is not taken advantage of by all these developers coming in here building everything? And we want to make sure that it's not applied inconsistently, unfairly, or in a way that creates the appearance of favoritism. So we want to make sure that we keep the public trust where it needs to be at. So I believe in full transparency in everything that we do. So if any fees are being waived, we just want to make sure that the public knows. Again, these are not any accusations. I love the work that Brent is doing. And I just think if you put the information out, there won't be questions asked from the public. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, this time that does close the public comment session.
I have something to say. I'm Commissioner Barbara McCoy. And what Richard said is actually true. At our legislative conference last week. If you all think things are bad now, you're looking for something difficult to deal with when you're dealing with the state. I do lobby my representatives for the state on the behalf of you all. But we need you all to lobby them too. It costs you nothing to pick up the phone and call your state legislature that's representing you and that's making all these rules that we have to follow under. So that's all I gotta say. We need help too. The two of you are there at that meeting. And it seems like they're the more concerned about what the legislature says than what happening with us here in this county. And it's gonna get worse. So you can come up here and bash us all you want to. I thank you for coming, because I wanna hear from you. But I think they should hear from you too. That's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Again, thank y'all for coming. We do appreciate the comments. We do appreciate this larger group coming to the meeting. And if you'll continue to come to the meetings, you'll see in the near future that you're going to see attempted action about the impact fees. So just keep watching and coming. And we do appreciate, look, I understand the passion. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem. I think it's a good thing that we have this public comment. And I do appreciate all of you coming. Thank you. And I'll give you a chance if you want to step out now before we continue the meeting. If you want to do that, you're more than welcome.
All I can say, they ain't seen nothing yet. All I can say is they ain't seen nothing yet. And I tell you what, we don't get no money from the line.
About $3 million is all we get.
We need to know what's going on.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not very specific, but the intent is.
They want to make sure that we're getting it put together now, and when we get it written up, we're gonna have you come and y'all can look at it and make sure it's good before we send it officially give it to you.
Yeah, we go back on that.
All right, thank you. All right, y'all ready now? All right, we can call back to order at this time. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? It is consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving on to presentations. Child Abuse Prevention Month proclamation.
This morning we have a proclamation in regard to Child Abuse Prevention Month. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. And whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. And whereas child abuse and neglect are a community responsibility, affecting both the current and future quality of life of the community. And whereas communities that provide parents with social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensure all children grow to their full potential. And whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, the Harnett County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. Adopted this 7th day of April 2026, Harnett County Board of Commissioners, Doug E. Jaggers, Chairman, Matthew B. Nichols, Vice Chairman, William Morris, Barbara McCoy, Brooks Matthews. Thank you. All y'all do. Thank you.
Hey, Rob, you're from the park.
All right, item B, Keep Harnett Beautiful, 2026, Litter Sweep, Morgan Pope.
Good morning. Thank you guys for having me here today. I have been with the Harnett Soil and Water Conservation District office for a little over 7 years now. We have run the Keep Harnett Beautiful Litter Sweep program for about 5 years now. And our spring litter sweep, we have lots coming up. We have host sites. There are 7 different sites, 4 different days, all for one beautiful county. I have listed up there all the different days. Each time will begin at 9 a.m. through 12 on each day and site. And if you guys have any questions or want to know more about our litter sweeps, you can follow us on our Facebook or follow us along on our website. Any questions, you guys can shoot me an email. It's mpope@harnett.com or .org, I'm sorry, or 910-514-2054. Thanks.
Thank you. Summary, item C, summary of employee exit surveys presentations. Ms. Lane.
Good morning. A couple of meetings ago, you all asked me to present this information of employees' exit surveys that are leaving the county. And we've compiled this presentation. So as you can see from the first page, this is a review of the third and fourth quarter from 2025. So if you like the way that we're presenting this information, we'll continue to do this twice a year for the 2 quarters prior to that. But looking at third and fourth quarter of 2025, we had a total of 108 separations across all departments. So we're running at about a 10% turnover rate, and that was based on 1,128 active employees at that time. And there were 12 departments affected, and you can see there at the bottom, the top 5 were solid waste, library, DSS, the sheriff's office, and emergency services. And then we grouped all other departments. So reasons for departure, we categorized these the best that we could because sometimes it is hard to capture that information in their exit surveys. So the top 2 were tied with personal reasons, and then next is terminations, and then we had other, and then work environment, and that could be, mainly we see that from the detention, from the jail, because even though they're taking a tour and doing interviews, I think it's different when they get in there and the door shuts and they're in there for 12 hours, right? The other department we see that a lot is hearts. Even though they do ride-alongs and they're seeing what that takes, picking up our citizens and securing them and taking them and to their appointments and being there on time. So a lot of that is cited as work environment. Compensation, we had 14 employees to cite that was the reason, and I know that's what you guys wanted me to focus on. So we're coming in about 12.96% of the population that's leaving that cited that reason. Career advancement, 9 employees cited that. We had some retirements, and then work-life balance. So departures by department. Again, your top 5, and here's all the departments that were affected, all 12. But again, the top 5 being solid waste, sheriff's office, library, emergency services, and DSS. I did want to point out for emergency services, although we're trending that we lost 29, I did want to point out that 7 of those terminations were due to the part-time staff not working the required hours. They have a rule in place that if you're part-time, you have to put in 60 hours of availability in each month. And if you don't do that for 3 months, then EMS, they call it scrubbing the list, and they're terminated. So I did want to say 7 of those 29 were a result of not putting their availability in the system to be able to work the hours needed. And so we really concentrated on compensation because I know that was a concern for you all. But again, out of the 108 departures, we only had 14 employees to cite compensation as a reason for leaving, which is 12.96%. So the top 3 departments that were affected were DSS. They had 6 out of their 19 departures that cited compensation. Sheriff's Office, 3 of their 25 departures cited compensation, and Library, 2 of the 11 cited that as well. So our plans going forward for this next budget year, of course, our number one thing is we always look at the COLA, and the recommendation from our comp study was 3%. Step 2 was the compensation study, and the recommendation from that was a 2% market adjustment, so that was the second recommendation. And then we're always continuing to reevaluate the starting pay for those key or specialized or those hard to fill positions where with justification the county manager can approve for a new hire to be brought in above the minimum if their education and experience justifies the higher wage. So we'll continue to do that. And then HR's commitment to ongoing tracking of this information is that we'll continue to do these exit interviews. If they don't complete them, we try to get to their departments quickly to see if they voiced a reason internally, maybe didn't share that in the exit interview, or maybe they didn't complete it, and we're recording those responses. We're continuing to track the data and categorize them and analyze them. We'll provide these updated reports twice a year, and then just hopefully track any patterns that we see. And that's all I have. Do you guys have any questions?
The one on the social services where they had the most for compensation, do you know if it was entry-level compensation or advanced position compensation by any chance?
It was a mix. So it was a lot of the lower level, the income maintenance caseworker 1 positions, and then some of our advanced, our social workers, which are hard to fill. So some of those are going to other counties and getting more of an increase.
Well, so I don't remember seeing on your list, it wasn't the work, the actual work, because I know the caseload is overwhelming for them, and that's why.
Yeah. So if we go back to this slide right here, so the different colors represent, so if we go to the bottom for DSS, so we probably had about 2 for career advancement, and then the orange, as you see, or red, sorry, is compensation. And then the orange is other. And then we had personal reasons, so that's probably 1 person. And then we did probably have 2 or 3 retirements. And then there were probably 2 or 3 terminations. And then the last part, the green, was work environment. So I would agree with that. Sometimes that work environment, it is the caseloads that are wearing them down and they don't feel that they have a work-life balance. So you can see that that's probably the second largest reason aside from compensation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
What about hogs? I mean, are they still having problems finding drivers?
We do have problems finding drivers, yes, ma'am. And it seems that we get them in, they train, and then we're losing them. They are not leaving for compensation. They're leaving more for, it would be the work environment. I think that's the main problem. And even though they do the interviews, they do the ride-alongs, but we've gotten traction lately. We've had 3 hires in the past 2 months, and those are working to be trained up. So we feel we're making a better movement towards being fully staffed in Hearts.
Well, I should hope so, because this is a very important organization.
It is.
It's for the seniors of this county. Another thing is that for the library, I've never seen numbers like this for the library not being able to keep people there, because what seems to be the real reason for that?
Yeah, well, and looking at the library numbers on the PowerPoint that's up now, it says departures by department. Yeah, so a large of that, the main reason was personal. So you can see compensation was probably 2 employees, and then there's purple. And so that's personal reasons. And a lot of times they do not disclose what those personal reasons are. I know personally that we had 2 or 3 that had military connections. So their spouses were getting relocated. So I am aware of that. But sometimes they won't share what they'll just say it's personal.
These are hired employees, not volunteers, right?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am. Those are our part-time and full-time employees. And then the remaining of those were actually retirement. So we did have some retirement from the library the last 2 quarters.
Okay. Okay.
Would it be possible on the when you have, it seems like the work environment might be a significant in a department. Is there any way, do y'all have the ability to follow up with actual, if they will talk to you to get, because just saying work environment, that's such a broad
Yes. So
topic. If we could find out more, if it's environmental things that could be corrected or not.
That is true. So we do collect that information. So if they do site work environment, there is a fill in the blank that they can put information in. But again, we were working 2 quarters last year. So we are going to do a better job now that we have more staffing in our office to go back and collect that information as soon as it's happening. So it's in real time to dig deeper. The other thing we've been doing lately is to all exit surveys, whether they're positive or there's some areas for improvement, we are sharing with the department head and the respective county manager that's in charge of that department, so we can see the good and some of the areas that we need for improvement. We're sharing those. We're doing a new hire check-in. So we're doing a 1 week, a 30, 60, 90-day check-in, sharing that with the department director and the county manager. And then the exit surveys when they're leaving, we're doing that as well. So we're trying to be very transparent of all the reasons. So we will begin to collect more specific information about work environment.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have any? Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right, item D, presentation upon a regional water capital improvement plan. Ms. Burns.
Good morning, Commissioners and Manager. Appreciate the opportunity to present the capital improvements plan for Harnett Regional Water. You have 2 handouts at your desk, and we'll primarily be working off of the spreadsheet. The Word document is more of a narrative type document that will kind of fill in some of the areas that we'll go over. In the interest of time, I wanted to spend primarily on the next 3 years, as that's the most aggressive capital improvement schedule that we have, and just take you through some of those projects. And I'll do it year by year, and then we, as a complement to that, we have the revenue projections and the rate and fee schedule that will be associated with that. Following my presentation, Ted Cole, who's the county's financial advisor, will talk with you briefly about debt affordability and so forth on that project. So we'll begin on the spreadsheet, looking at the fiscal year 26-27, the left-hand column there. The largest project, obviously, that we have ongoing is the North Harnett wastewater treatment plant capacity upgrade project. Currently, that project's right at about 55% complete. It's a $111 million project. We've got another agenda item today that's a change order on that project that we'll discuss a little bit later. Following that, also planned for next fiscal year is the Southwest Wastewater Pump Station in Force Main, and that's Highway 87. That project has been delayed for almost 2 years, waiting on easements from Fort Bragg, but we've now secured those easements from Fort Bragg, and I think we've secured all of our private easements except maybe 1 or 2 on those. So that project, we're hoping to bid that in the next couple months. The Irwin St. Matthews Road Utility Extension Project, that's a two-part project. The first part of that project is the St. Matthews Road Waterline Extension, and that has been completed. The second part of that project is the South Irwin Sewer, which, if you're familiar with Irwin, that would be the Moore Street lift station over to the Porter's Chapel lift station, which would then in turn pump back across the river back to the Lillington treatment plant. That project we just bid last week, and those bids came in right about what we were anticipating. So we're in the process now compiling the bid summaries, and we'll have that hopefully sent over for an award pretty soon from the commissioners. The Irwin Downtown Utility Project, that's a utility relocation project that we're working on in downtown Irwin to replace some aging infrastructure in the downtown block, like the Joseph's Department Store, Bernie's, Tim Morris Law, that kind of square. That project, we just completed some right-of-way surveys, and we should be getting some design and permitting finalized on that pretty soon. Old Hamilton Road Water Extension Project, that project is slated to bid probably May or June this year. The design is essentially complete. We've received some of the permits back for that. We're still waiting on a couple of wetlands crossing permits and so forth. So we'll have that for you hopefully in the May or June timeframe. And then the last project projected for 26-27 is the Wake County distribution upgrade. In all honesty, that project's probably going to be moved to the next fiscal year. I don't think we'll get everything completed with Holly Springs prior to this fiscal year. So that may be an update that we'll have later to move that to the following fiscal year. But as you look down, our estimated capital projects for 26-27 are about $149 million. We've got $28.3 million in grants. If you look at the revenue column just below that first column, we're anticipating partner contributions from Holly Springs in the amount of $15.875 million, from the town of Fuquay, $42 million, the town of Andrews contribution $15.4 million, the town of Lillington partner contribution at $6.1 million, and Harnett Regional Water Reserve funding $41.5 million. And the majority of the partner participation is either on the North Harnett Wastewater Project or, in Holly Springs' case, the Wake County Distribution Project. If you'll go back up to the top of that page for 27-28 fiscal year, we have a couple projects planned for 27-28 that will total about $111.8 million. The first project is the Buies Creek Coats Collection System upgrades. That $10.793 million, that is a state appropriation that Representative Penny secured for the county about 2 years ago. I will go ahead and tell you that's probably not going to be enough to cover that project. That project is going to commence in two phases. The first phase will be from Station 120, which is our large regional station at the Cape Fear River, back to like the Keith Hills, Buies Creek area. And then the second part of that project will go from basically downtown Buies Creek at the traffic circle all the way to Lift Station 4, which is just outside the town of Coates. So again, that project is probably going to need some additional county or financed funding, because that's probably only going to pay for about 60% of that project. And then the largest project, 27-28, is at the water treatment plant in Lillington. That's a $95 million project for the PFAS requirements that we have to meet by 2031. We're completing a pilot study now that will determine what our most effective treatment will be to remove PFAS. Once that pilot study is completed, we'll have a presentation for the board that will go into the intricacies of what type treatment process and how the county will design and bid and pay for that project going forward. And then lastly, the Northwest Water Rehabilitation Project at $6 million. This project is much needed. And I think if we could, we would like to maybe even move that up if we could, because we've got two problem areas Harnett Central Road, and then 401 in the Christian Light Northwest Harnett area, where we have frequent leaks and repairs that we've had to make. And so we'd like to, one, go in and upsize and replace all of that infrastructure in that area. So we'll begin on working towards that here shortly as well. So again, those projects are about $111.7 million. If you'll follow down that second column with the revenues, we are anticipating $15.793 million grants from other sources, state revolving loan funds in the amount of $50 million. That'll primarily be for the PFAS treatment. And then Harnett Regional Water Reserves in the amount of $46 million for that project. And then in the interest of time, I just want to cover one more fiscal year, which is 28-29. And the only project we've got scheduled for that is probably one of the largest projects that we'll undertake, and that's the new Irwin Water Treatment Plant project. Right now, that project budget's about $240 million. We think that's probably going to be higher than that once we bid the project. That project right now, we're completing the preliminary engineering report. We'll go right into design and permitting because that is a project that is kind of a critical mass for us that we need to get under construction. The county was gracious to let us secure the land this fiscal year, so we're good with the land and the areas that we'll need. We've completed a river survey that will determine the intake location, and now we've got some meetings with some of our regional partners to discuss interconnections and resiliency type projects, and then system security with an interconnect with our existing plant in Lillington. If you continue down to the revenue column, we've got revenue bonds projected at $50 million for that project, state revolving loan funds of $30 million, and anticipating regional entity participation of about $120 million, in addition to about $40 million in Harnett Regional Reserves. So we've got a very aggressive timeline. These are projects, some of which we probably should have done, before now, but we're kind of catching up. That's why it's important for you to hear today from Ted Cole about the debt affordability and how we're going to pay for those projects going forward. The last item I wanted to cover is the second page of the spreadsheet that discusses our water and sewer rates. Of course, everybody is probably wondering with all these projects, how do you anticipate that impacting your rate and fee schedule for the water and sewer operation? So for 26-27 fiscal year, we have no rate changes planned. And if you'll look across that rate schedule projection, we have planned increases about every 3 years to help pay down some of these infrastructure projects. For 27-28, we've got a $2 increase planned, which would take the flat minimum bill to $24 instead of $22, and then no other planned increases until the 31-32 fiscal year. And then the same thing, the last box of columns is the sewer rates for those associated projects as well. One thing to note, we do have a planned increase next year for all of our bulk customers. Those are like our municipalities that we supply water to, and we've had them on about a 3-year cycle as well. That seems to work well for everybody from a budgeting and planning standpoint. So that's sort of a condensed version of that. I'll be happy to answer any questions, or if you have any after Ted's presentation, I'll be happy to try to address those as well.
I have a question. On this PFAS project, is this an ongoing project, or is this going to be a one-time deal?
It's going to be the project itself, we have to complete by 2031, but because of the project, we're going to have ongoing maintenance costs to maintain that system. We're probably going to do like a carbon-centered treatment plan, which is going to require the carbon to be regenerated every so many months, and so that's going to increase our future operating costs as well.
Thank you. That's much needed. That's the reason I asked that question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Kimberly, you want me to pass out these hard copies?
morning. I'm Ted Cole with Davenport and Company. We serve as financial advisor to the county. Generally, our work revolves around capital planning, debt issuances when you need to borrow money for capital projects, whether that's on the county, school, or utility side. And what we're talking about today, as Tommy said, is just the utilities, Harnett Regional Water. What's on the screen is exactly the same as what was just passed out and maybe what's in your agenda packet as well. We're not looking for any action today, just information. And I'm happy to take questions as we go. Some of this will be a little technical about revenue bonds and things like that, so feel free to ask questions. There are page numbers in the bottom right corner, and if we go to the topics for discussion, we're going to cover at a pretty high level concepts, one about credit ratings for Harnett Regional Water. The idea being if we need to go to the bond market to borrow money, we have a bond rating today. We're going to need to continue to have that bond rating outstanding and interact with the rating agencies. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the existing debt that's outstanding already for Harnett Regional. Obviously, from the prior presentation, you heard about potential future debt issuances. So we're going to start with what's outstanding today. We've got a chart that will talk a little bit about the historical financial performance. That'll be important when we're talking about revenue bonds, and I'm going to explain those in a little more detail. Some key ratios, bond covenants and policies, and some initial observations. In the appendix, if you care to look at it, there is the detail of all the Harnett Regional debt that's currently outstanding. Loan by loan is in the back, as well as your financial policies. And there are some specific policies tied to utilities, particularly utility debt and reserves. So with that, on page 3, the chart on the bottom left is the scale for the rating agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch. Those are the 3 most commonly used rating agencies. The county has ratings from Moody's and Standard & Poor's. So when you go out to borrow money for schools or county facilities, those bonds would be rated. The issuer in that case would be Harnett County. Separately, Harnett Regional Water has its own rating as well from Moody's. That's the only one at this point. That may change. We may decide when the time comes to issue bonds, maybe we want to get another rating. No decision on that just yet. The Moody's rating is a AA2. It's 2 notches away from AAA, which is the highest rating that any issuer, municipal issuer, can achieve. You're solidly in what we call the AA rating. And the last write-up about the credit, or Harnett Regional, was in 2020 when we sold some revenue refunding bonds. And you can see a little bit of their commentary on the right-hand side there. Strong financial position, low debt burden, a stable service area, that's your economy, below average income levels. We'll talk a little bit about that. What could lead to a rating upgrade? In other words, how could your rating be improved? An increase in the system size, and we know that's happening, and strengthened income levels within the service area, which is happening, but it's not something you all have direct control over, right? Wages growing, income levels growing, things like that. That is not something that you can manage directly, but I do think things are moving in the right direction there. And then finally, what could make the rating go down? A decline in debt service coverage. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what debt service coverage is and liquidity, i.e. your fund balances and reserves, and significant increases in debt or capital needs. And while you got a pretty significant CIP, the reliance on debt in the grand scheme of thing is pretty reasonable for the size of the CIP you have. I mean, there will, it sounds like, certainly be new debt issued, but you have a very diverse source of funding for all of those projects, right? Current year revenues of the system, grants, partner contributions, debt. So it's a balanced funding approach, which they view very favorably. You're not over-reliant on, for example, debt to make that CIP come together. There's a nice balance across lots of different funding sources. A little bit about how they go about rating utilities. And this is Moody's. The other rating agencies do something very similar, but there might be some different nuances to it. But for Moody's, they break it down into 4 major areas of discussion. They're going to look at audits, they're going to look at budgets, they're going to look at census data to come up with an initial score for Harnett. And remember, this is Harnett Regional for funding utility only. This has nothing to do with the county's bond ratings. So the first item they look at is system characteristics. It represents about 30% of the rating. They're looking at asset condition. That is, are you investing in your assets? What's the remaining useful life of all of those assets? That is reported in your audit. So as you're improving the system, the assets have a longer useful life. That's favorable. Service area wealth. This is getting to the income levels and the dynamic of your service area, like measured in median family income, and then the system size. And those 3 things together make up 30% of the rating, and you'll notice the check boxes there. Those are, for the most part, long-term items, meaning you can't just change the asset life overnight or as part of a budget, or change the wealth level or the earnings levels within the community. Those are really long-term plays. Financial strength in the middle is 40% of the rating. So we're talking about something called debt service coverage. I'm going to explain that. Days cash on hand, that is your reserve levels, and debt to operating revenues. So 3 very specific calculations. Together, they're 40% of the rating, and y'all do have some control over those. How you set budgets, how you set rates and charges, things like that will influence and manage financial strength. So that's an important one to continue to manage effectively. Management is 20% of the rating, how you're addressing rates and charges, your regulatory compliance, your capital planning. A little more subjective, right? It's not actual calculations, but it's how do you manage this system. Again, you have pretty decent control over that. So those 2 middle sections, financial strength and management, represent 60% of the rating input, and you all have pretty decent control over that. The very bottom item, 10%, that is how your bond documents are written. That's worth 10% of the rating. On the right-hand side, there's a little more detail about some of those credit factors. I'm going to talk about 2 of them. The second one is debt service coverage. Think about it this way. You've got revenue bonds outstanding for the utility system. And what that is, what the lender or the investor has, is not a lien on an asset, right? Not a mortgage. It's not backed by the county's taxing authority. It's secured by the revenues of the water and sewer system. So you bring in revenues. The first thing you have to pay is your operating expenses, salaries, utilities, etc. What's left is what you've pledged to the bondholders. After operating expenses, whatever dollars are left is what the bondholders have a lien on. And debt service coverage says that remaining amount, your documents say you have to be able to demonstrate that for every dollar of debt service you have to pay, you need to have $1.20 available to pay it. That's called debt service coverage. That way, if revenues decline unexpectedly or expenses go up unexpectedly, you've got some cushion, right? You only pay debt service dollar for dollar, but they want to see at a minimum for every dollar you have to pay, you've got $1.20. Now, you've been operating at a much higher level, as do most utilities. The 1.2 times is the minimum that the documents say must be achieved. So that's a very important concept, that debt service coverage, because that really is the credit. Again, the credit is the revenues of the system, nothing else, right? No county support is pledged to the bondholders, no mortgage on a plant, anything like that. And then the second item is system reserves, and it's pretty straightforward, common sense, right? You got to have a certain amount of reserves to cash flow, to manage capital projects. These projects are very cost intense when you're in the engineering phase, right-of-way phases, all of those things, and you need to have cash to facilitate that. So it's just very much like your fund balance in your general fund. Certain amount of reserves and liquidity, they view that very favorably. So that's a little bit about utilities. And again, please stop me if you got a question. Page 5, we subscribe to the database that Moody's maintains, and this is specific to water and sewer systems that have bond ratings. In that upper left table are the national, across the country, water and sewer systems, and you will see that Moody's rates 15 of those as AAA, 187 of those as AA, one of which is Harnett Regional Water, and 74 of them that are single A. Within North Carolina, they rate 3 that are AAA, I'm in the bottom left, 22 that are AA, one of which is y'all, and 1 that's single A. And on the right-hand side, you can see who those North Carolina systems are. Look under the Moody's column, because that's the rating you have, and you'll see, you know, from AAA all the way down to single A. So you all are sitting there in very good company with a number of AA systems at the AA2 level. Okay, so that's kind of the universe of rated water and sewer systems within North Carolina. There are many others, but they don't have ratings outstanding. They just maybe haven't ever needed to establish a rating. But 29 or so that have ratings from one of the 3 rating agencies. Okay. So existing debt for Harnett Regional on page 6, the bottom left, you'll see there's about $29 million of debt outstanding. 21 million of that are general obligation bonds, and these go back some time in history. You have these various districts within the county for utilities, and in the past, those districts have voted general obligation bonds as a district and issued debt. We see that pretty widely utilized, particularly in eastern North Carolina, or this side of 95. Those districts exist. I don't know that there's any real plan to have additional referendums at the district level. We've kind of evolved when it's for financing purposes to an entire system, right? The aggregate system of Harnett Regional Water. So while those districts still exist on paper, I think the days of having debt specific to one district, that's not how we operate. We operate as an entire system. But that older general obligation debt is still outstanding, no problem. It's just being serviced by the entirety of the system. The revenue bonds outstanding, and those date to 2020, is about $7.7 million. So that's the breakout. And going forward, I think what we're going to find, and it's supported by what Tommy presented, is if there's debt to be issued, we're going to be issuing revenue debt of Harnett Regional Water. Whether the project's up here, down here, what have you, right? You've got lots of projects that are going to cover all facets of the system. But the debt's going to be issued by the entire fund, Harnett Regional Water, and it's going to be repaid from all of the funds within that system, not any one district. The right-hand side will show you what the annual payments are, principal, interest, and total. We're about $4.2 million a year for the next couple of years, order of magnitude. That's what you're paying out of the system. Everything is fixed rate. We know the debt service payments to the penny. It'll only change if we do something to prepay or refund debt. So all in all, a pretty modest amount of debt outstanding right now. But that very bottom left footnote is important because you all were awarded $80 million from a revolving loan, and Tommy had mentioned that. That money's still being drawn down and spent. That project hasn't closed out. And the way that revolving loan program works is not until the project is closed out do they give you a final debt schedule and payments begin. So you get the use of the money, you're spending it. they're keeping track of how much is outstanding, but you're not making payments during that period. So we've got, let's round up, we got 30 million. We're going to be adding 80 off the top here pretty soon, right? So we're going to be at about $110 million of debt outstanding, give or take. And then you've got some of these other projects that Tommy mentioned that might require some additional debt. So this is all very timely and important to make sure we understand our ability to take on that additional debt. And graphically, I think it's a really good story because in the next 3 years, you all have some significant drops in your payment. The payments are going from over 4 million to 3.5 to 1.9 million. So that is very timely reduction in that existing debt because the new debt can come on right behind it. And I'm not going to say it'll have no impact, but it'll minimize the impact of that new debt to some extent, right? As the old debt falls off, the new debt comes in. And that's going to be very helpful when we're talking about that additional 80 million and whatever future debt might be approved. All right, page 7, a lot of numbers. I'm going to look under the far right column. And it's really a pretty simple concept, but I think it's important. These are all audited financials. And remember, these are of the entire fund, not any one district. So look under the 2025 audit. This is how the bond market looks at your utility finances, how the bond holders, investors, and the rating agencies. So in 25, top line, you had $65.5 million come in. Revenues from all sorts of customers. Operating expenses on line 2 were $36.5 million. That's your salaries, that's your utilities. It does not include depreciation. That's a non-cash item, right? That's an accounting concept. It's money out the door to utilities and vendors, $36 million. What that left on line 3 is $29 million, right? 65 minus the 36. 29 million. That 29 million is what you're pledging to the bondholders, right? Revenue comes in, you got to pay your operating expenses first, and then what's left over is what the bondholders have a lien on in a revenue bond credit. So you got 29 million, and you'll notice on page 7, your payment for the debt was 4.3 million. So you got to pay 4.3 out of 29. You got it more than covered, right? Multiple times over. You can see it on line 22. You're covering your debt service over 6.5 times. Your document says you got to cover the debt service 1.2 times. That's the bare bones minimum. You're 6.5 times. You've got it covered and then some. Now, we also know we got $80 million coming on from the revolving loan. We've got some other debt that will likely be issued. So we're in a really strong position and have been over the last 5 years. And I'm not suggesting you'll be in a weak position, but we know there is more significant debt coming on. And it really is just sort of emphasizes the importance of all of this planning y'all are doing. So historically on line 22, that debt service coverage has been very strong. No concerns, right? We've got a demonstrated ability and demonstrated track record of having covered our debt well above the required amounts. And then cash, lines 23 and 24, we measure cash 2 ways. As a percent of the budget, or what we call days cash on hand, which is from our reserves, how many days could we pay our expenses if we had no money coming in? And in 2025, the cash position, the reserve position was very strong. It was over 300% of the operating budget, or said another way, you could cover 1,200 days of expenses out of those reserves. Your policy says you want to have at least 50%, right? So you're well above that, but we also know with this capital program, there's an expectation of spending down some of that cash. So really strong financial position as we look at the growth of the system, right? Revenues have grown from 42 to 65 million over these 5 years. You're covering your current debt multiple times over, well above the minimum required, and your cash position is very strong. couldn't ask for a better setup, right, going into this CIP that you all are going to be moving forward with. So that's all very positive. Page 8 will just show you the upper left how that debt service coverage has evolved over time, that gold line. It's gone up, and you can see that that blue line is the 1.2 time minimum, right? That's what the bond documents say. You have to be able to demonstrate you're at 1.2 times every year. You've been well above that. We just covered that. The right-hand side will show you your coverage, Harnett Regional Water in gold, right? That's that 6.6 times coverage that you had in 25. And you can see how you compare to the medians of the national water and sewer systems in dark green and the North Carolina water and sewer systems in light green, those that are rated AAA, AA, single A. In this one, you want your bar further to the right. You're well above those medians. But down below, you'll also see, there are rated communities that are operating at, over 2 times coverage. Minimum looks like it's a 1.2 times coverage. So it's a pretty wide range. And our expectation would be that your coverage is going to come down. As that $80 million comes online and maybe some additional debt, even though there's some rate increases, that 6.6 times coverage is likely to come down. And that's not a bad thing. You're really quite high, and there's room for it to come down. But there's a balance, right? We don't want it to come down to 120. That's just the bare bones minimum. We're going to find that happy medium of being above our 120 requirement, but not excessively high, so that you're not raising rates just solely for that ratio. And then the other item, page 9, is cash. And the left-hand side shows you, you're operating with reserves that are about 300% of the operating budget, or what did we say, 1,200 days cash on hand. That's the green bars and the green line. Very strong and well above the red line, which is your policy. We want to have, at a minimum, at least 50% of our budget. So you're operating at a higher level. That's a good thing. The expectation is that cash balances are going to come down as well as we're taking on the CIP. And you can see on the right-hand side, you line up very favorably with the medians of the AAA and AA North Carolina system. So both of those slides tell us you're well in compliance with either your bond covenant or your policy, well positioned for this CIP that we talked about. And particularly on the cash side, we know there's a pretty significant element to your CIP of PAYGO, meaning cash-funded projects, and you've got the reserves to do that, and they can come down without jeopardizing your rating. And so the last wrap-up, very straightforward, simple, right? You performed well financially, meeting and exceeding all your covenants and policies. You've got a sustained ability to service your existing debt. There is already built into your rate structure affordability for new debt because you're operating at a very high level. The question will be, when does the $80 million come on, that payment cycle, and that's what your staff is working on, as well as with some outside rate consultants. So taking on the $80 million as that other debt pays off, additional debt that might be needed for the CIP, all of which just emphasizes the importance of continuing to do this planning work so that you all have a good roadmap for what the capital investment will be, how it's funded, cash, debt, et cetera, and making sure that rates and charges are at a level that will allow you to get access to the capital markets, keep that rating level where it is, and maybe improve that rating level going forward. So that's all I had prepared. Happy to answer some questions if there are any.
I have one question. On the rating, you said the last time we were rated is in 2020 for HRW, right?
Correct, for the revenue bonds.
With the status of how it is, what significant difference would it be to have, say they went in there and they gave us the AAA, how does that, the short version of how that helps us?
How that impacts you?
Did I say that politically correct for you?
You did.
Okay.
How it would impact you?
Yes.
So it would be the difference. Let's say today, if you're a AAA borrower, you're borrowing at, I'm going to call it 4%. If you're a AA borrower, you're borrowing at 4.15. So it's practically impacts your borrowing rate, but it's not like 1% or 1.5%. It's 15, 20 basis points, the difference between a rate of 4.00 and 4.15 or 4.20. So it's not nothing, right? It's not insignificant, but it's not a 4% versus a 5%.
So and when you're talking $80 million of this, with the numbers that we have here, there would be no reason we would go down in rating.
I don't see any risk of a deterioration in the rating.
So why would we not try to do it again? Is there a reason why we wouldn't?
I think we will be.
Okay.
As that CIP comes on. Now, the $80 million, that's from the state. They don't require a rating for that, and it's actually a subsidized rate. So you're good there. Like that they don't need you to get the rating redone for that. But it's those outer years where there was some other debt included that will likely be revenue bonds. Now, maybe there's more revolving loan money out there that the state can make available. I don't think you're closing the door on that, but if there's not, we'll be doing revenue bonds, and that's when we would revisit the rating. And it could also be in 2 months, Moody's could call the county and say, hey, we'd like to talk about Harnett Regional. It's been a few years since we've talked. We'd like to reassess the rating. So they will do that from time to time, even if you're not going to them and asking for a new rating.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just a moment, Ted. So they do reach out to me every year, Moody's does, via a phone call just to check on, how did the year wind up, just a few statistics before, because we actually submit our audit to them every year. So they actually review the revenues and expenditures and the financial position of Harnett Regional every single year. And typically in the past, when we've gone this long without being rated, because we've not really issued any debt, they will strongly suggest and sometimes just flat out ask for a review, a full-blown review. So we're expecting it to come.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, moving on to action items. Item A, discuss and consider request to approve the fireworks application from Power Star Entertainment for Campbell University's baseball season.
Yep, this is the same organization that did last month's shoots. They went off very well and safely. They're looking at shoots on April 10th, 17th, and May 1st, and all their plans meet the fire code compliance and all the safety issues.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item B, discuss and consider a contract with Parrish and Partners to manage the construction phase of the new fuel farm at Harnett Regional Jet Point. Mr. Bonte.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before you is a work authorization for Parrish and Partners, who, as you know, is our attorney of record, and they oversee all of our construction projects. This is the final step in approving funding for our fuel farm project. It's a construction management contract or work authorization in the amount of $254,613 coming from our capital improvement fund.
Chairman, I'll make a motion that we approve the recommendation from Mr. Abate for Parrish and Partners to manage the construction phase of the new fuel farm at Harnett Regional Jetport.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item C, discuss and consider request to accept the 2026 NRA Foundation Grant Award to Harnett County Extension Shooting Sports Club. Mr. Matthews.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here this morning to request the permission to receive the NRA grant for 2026 for our 4-H Shooting Sports Club. They filed this submitted this request for several items, but what they were awarded is three bows, 5 dozen arrows, 5,000 rounds of 22 long rifle shells, and a pallet of shooting clays. The clays are too heavy to actually ship to us, so they would be presenting us with a check for, I got that here, just a second, for $1,024 in order to purchase those clays locally. So our shooting sports club just reestablished this past year. We have 32 members. Some of them are here this morning. We have 11 trained leaders, volunteers, 6 of those being certified shooting instructors, and we're training 3 more of those this weekend.
So where do you practice?
Pardon me?
So where do you practice?
Where do you practice?
Oh, we practice at, right now we're out at Greg's Landing. They have allowed us to practice out there free of charge.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the Cooperative Extension's request to accept the 2026 NRA Foundation grant awarded for our Harnett County Extension Shooting Sports Club.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item D, discuss and consider request to approve a technical memorandum from Wetson and Sampson Harnett Regional Waters Consulting Engineer on WWTP project upgrades, which cover change order number 6 for Adams Robinson and change order number 1 for biometrics. Mr. Burns.
Thanks, sir. We're asking for your approval of a change order at the North Harnett Regional Wastewater Plant. As I mentioned earlier, we're undergoing a project there. Change order 6 with Adams Robinson is for additional earthwork. Change order 1 with Bionomics is for some sludge remediation. We're trying to clean out 3 other sludge lagoons. And then the change order with Adams Robinson is for the earthwork to reclaim the property that will be cleaning out from those lagoons. That'll allow us to pick up another 6 acres on the site. And we're already kind of confined with space on that site. So we're asking your permission to go ahead and move forward with that while the project's still ongoing. I think this will be the cheapest opportunity we'll have to reclaim those areas.
Motion to approve,
second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you,
And
sir.
that would be the related budget amendment too. Thank you.
Item E, discuss and consider request to approve a contract with Martin Starnes and Associates CPAs for the completion of the county's required audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. Mr. Honeycutt. Ms. Honeycutt.
I think I just scared Tommy to death. When I walked toward him, he was like, what? So, good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners of the Board. What you have before you in your packages is a contract to audit the county's financial books for the fiscal year ending 2026. This is required by state statute that we, units of local government, undergo an audit of their books each year. And the cost this year will be $118,750, and that includes 2 major programs. If you remember, the ARPA funds that we receive are now required to go through a major audit review, as well as our programs at DSS and Health. Anytime we get state, any type of federal funding and grant funding, we are required to have an outside audit firm. So you'll see this every year. So I'm just asking approval, and the Local Government Commission does require a review and approval by the Board of Commissioners.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I just want to ask one question for the public.
Yes, sir.
The budget and the checkbook are still online, correct?
Yes, sir.
So people can actually see where the money goes, right?
Yes, sir, and it's also downloadable. They can sort it into Excel. So now instead of just a large PDF document, they can also go in and sort that anyway, alphabetically, I think by dollar amount. Yes, sir. Okay. And the budget is online as well.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item F, discuss and consider request to adopt a resolution authorizing the purchase by Harnett County of Harnett Regional Jetport Hangar number 559. Mr. Snow and Mr. Abate, I don't know which one's doing it.
Mr. Chairman, I'm deferring to Mr. Abate as the Jetport Director, in that this matter is coming before the board and the public for the first time, and he has a report and a basis for this proposal.
Good morning again. Before you is the proposal to purchase the Monroe Lee hangar located at 559 Airport Road on the Harnett County Jetport premises. This particular hangar is 100 feet wide by 80 feet deep. It's heated with natural gas, LED lighting, has a restroom, office space with air conditioning, kitchenette, laundry room, air compressor, rear roll-up door, and front hydraulic door. This particular hangar, if we were to try to build this right now, would cost us upwards or over $1 million to build this hangar. This hangar was presented to us by the owner, Monroe Lee, with two options: to purchase the hangar or lease the hangar from him. And my recommendation to you all was to purchase the hangar outright for a cost of $400,000. Additionally, the hangar has a air compressor and numerous other amenities inside. It's heated by natural gas. As you know, our current hangar that we own is in much needed repair, and you all have approved a new door for that, as well as some demolition and remodeling to go on inside of it, which will allow us to move our current tenants into this new hangar for the time being to complete those renovations. We will be able to potentially lease this hangar to either aircraft or lease it to an avionics shop. It is my goal to attract avionics businesses to our jetport to provide a much needed service, as well as provide jobs and tax base for the county. So my recommendation to you all, pursuant to the resolution and the associated budget amendment, is to approve the purchase of this hangar from Monroe Lee and the associated LLC for $400,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item G, review applications for the board. I think with Mr. Matt Nichols out, let's push this over to the next meeting and so all commissioners can be here. Anybody object to that? Thank you. Mr. Trout?
Thank you, Chairman. A few items of business that we need to conduct. I need a motion to approve budget amendments as requested by the finance officer.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
And Chairman, I need a motion to authorize the chairman to sign contract amendments and change orders exceeding the manager's signature threshold for Hawkins Incorporated and Johnson Controls.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Chairman, I need a motion to approve a resolution requesting NCDOT add Lambert Way in the Purfoy Place subdivision to the state's secondary road system.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
And a resolution requesting NCDOT add Solomon Drive, Walcott Court, Melville Lane, Eads Court, Sears Drive, Hancock Court, Brewster Court, Rush Lane, and Sam Adams Drive to Liberty Meadow subdivision in the state's secondary road system.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hear none. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
That's all I have, Chairman.
Question,
Yes, ma'am.
where are these located at? I don't see where they're located.
What?
She wants to know where they're located at.
Oh, I'm not exactly sure. I didn't pull that up on the map to look. My apologies.
We've got so much growth coming into this county, and we need to know where we are.
There should be, if you look in the packet, there are Maps.
I see the map.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't tell me anything.
It's off of Ponderosa Road out there off of 87.
Ponderosa.
Yes, ma'am. What it looks like. It's off of Johnsonville School Road, Ponderosa Road area out there.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. All right. Under new business, the one thing I want to bring up right quick, and this is more of an instruction, is Mr. Chris, I've talked to Representative Penny, I've talked to Representative Pike, and at the legislative meeting we were talking about the impact fee thing, and my understanding, and after going over some numbers with them, the number that I was suggested that we try for was $1,500. Okay, so if the board goes along with this, I would like to instruct you to start preparing that so that we can get with them. Once you get a document, we can have them review it, and then they said they would send it. Yes, sir. Is the board in agreement with that?
I'm in agreement with it, but it was, they also said that there was going to be no move on impact taxes. Because it's going to be up to the General Assembly. They made it very clear to us that we can want whatever we want.
Right. Well, in talking with them,
nothing's going to happen.
That's why the number was set at $1,500, because he thought that as a local bill would not have as much issue getting through, because at $1,500 is a reasonable amount, but it's not it's like an overburdened tax, and so.
More than half.
Yeah.
Less than the whole county.
Yeah, so that he didn't guarantee it, but neither one of them did, but they thought that they would, as far as getting it through the local bill status, it would stand a better chance, so.
I believe they also made the statement that they felt like if we got it in early, it had a better chance of maybe getting through, but if we don't try, if they put it through and it doesn't pass, at least we've tried, so.
And not trying to put you in the hot seat, but can you have this done by next week?
I'm all in agreement with doing it and for us to make a proposal and all that. But I don't want to give citizens no hope, because it was made very clearly at that meeting that the state legislature is not going to pass an impact tax. And that's what we need.
But at least we've tried and done all we can.
I'm all for trying. I've been trying for years.
I understand. I know.
I'm hard-headed, Mr. McCoy. All right, is there a need for closed session? I'll entertain a motion.
I'm only saying this and let the public know. We do what we can to relieve all of this expense in this county. But we need help from the state legislature too. And when we lobby them, I think individuals should call them sometime. It will make a great impact. They get elected and they hear nothing from the citizens. And that's all I'm saying.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned.